Okay, so what if I told you the path to salvation wasn't up, towards the heavens, but down, deep into the earth? We're about to dive into a pretty radical philosophy that takes one of the most famous spiritual stories ever told, Dante's Divine Comedy, and just flips it completely on its head. And this isn't just a critique, it's a full-on descent.
I mean, you know how it usually goes, right? Pretty much every great story of salvation we've ever heard is a journey upward. The whole point is to ascend, to climb out of this messy material world and reach for some perfect, heavenly place.
But what if that entire idea is just wrong? What if the real spiritual journey isn't about going up, but about going down, deeper into the earth, and maybe deeper into ourselves? That's the big, provocative question we're tackling today.
Now, this philosophy is so out there, it's basically a counter-gospel. It doesn't just poke holes in the traditional story of salvation, it takes every single piece of it and methodically inverts it. It's trying to create a whole new sacred story, one that's meant for the here and now.
And here's the core battle right here. On one side, you have the traditional gospel, telling us to ascend, right? Deny the physical world to get to the spiritual one. But this counter-gospel says no way. It demands the total opposite. Ground yourself in your earthly life. Find what's holy right here, in the material world, instead of trying to escape.
So when we say counter-gospel, we're not talking about a simple joke. This is a deep philosophical parody. Its entire purpose is to systematically tear down the idea of some God out there and replace it with this intense focus on our own human will right here on planet Earth.
And if you're going to have a new gospel, well, you're going to need a new kind of prophet. Not someone who points up to the heavens, but one who points right down at the dirt under our feet.
And the contrast is, well, it's stark. The traditional Nazarene goes up to heaven and teaches us to deny our physical selves. But the prophet in this philosophy is basically an anti-Jesus. He descends to earth and demands our absolute loyalty to it.
So where does this new prophet get his truth? It doesn't come from some far-off divine source. No, it comes from within, from the fire from his own belly. The source of everything sacred gets ripped out of the heavens and shoved right back into humanity itself.
Okay, now this is where the whole thing gets truly audacious. It literally takes us on a tour of Dante's famous afterlife, the Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso, and just turns each one completely upside down.
First stop, hell. Now, in Dante's version, hell is all about fire and torment, a punishment for sinners. But in this counter-gospel, hell is a warm room. Yeah, it's a place of total contentment, designed for people who are passive and have no ambition. Damnation here isn't pain, it's the complete absence of struggle. Kind of makes you think about our modern obsession with comfort, doesn't it?
This whole idea reveals a new, ultimate sin. The biggest threat to your spirit isn't being wicked, it's falling for the slow poison of comfort. It's this belief that a life without any challenge is a life that wasn't really lived at all.
And the people who live in this cozy hell, they're called the last men. Their only sin is that they just want safety and a happy year. They dodge every risk, every passion, and end up just sitting in the vestibule of life, never actually stepping inside.
All right, after that strange hell, we get to purgatory. But here, you're not washing away sins with help from angels. Instead, your task is to purge your faith in objective truth itself, all those old values that this philosophy calls slave morality.
And this is an active job. You don't just sit and wait. You have to become a gravedigger of the shadow. It's on you to bury the ghosts of old ideas that are holding you back. Things like pity, guilt, and shame.
So what's your tool for this job? Your weapon? Laughter. Specifically, something called joyful malice. It's this idea of joyfully and viciously tearing down all the old, life-denying values that are still hanging around.
And finally, we get to paradise. But just forget about any images of pearly gates. In this upside-down universe, heaven isn't some reward waiting for you in the clouds. It's an internal state of being. It's about completely accepting your fate, and you achieve it right here on Earth.
This kind of paradise is called amor fati. It's Latin for the love of fate. It's the power to look at your entire life, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the horrific, and not just accept it, but to actually love it, to see it all as necessary.
And the ultimate test of this love is this wild idea called eternal recurrence. This is the highest heaven. Imagine you had to live your exact same life, with all its mud and sorrow and joy, over and over and over again, for eternity. The soul that can look at that prospect and ecstatically scream yes, well, that's the soul that has found its paradise.
So how in the world does this philosophy get such a radical message across? It's all in the language. It pulls off this massive inversion by basically hijacking the style of the very sacred texts it's trying to replace.
I think this quote just nails the strategy perfectly. The philosophy steals the thunder of the Bible to proclaim the glory of the dirt. It uses the powerful, prophetic language of religion, but for a deeply earthly, you could even say profane purpose. And it's a pretty deliberate process. First, it adopts that prophetic tone, using words like verily and behold to hijack the authority of Scripture. Then, it issues these anti-commandments that flip traditional morality on its head. And finally, and this is the most important part, it commands you to create new values, not just to obey the old ones.
Which brings us to the ultimate, absolutely staggering conclusion of this whole philosophical journey. If God is dead, and heaven and hell are really just states inside of us, then what's next? This is it, the final commandment of the counter-gospel. With no external authority left to tell you what's right or wrong, the entire responsibility for creating meaning, for deciding what's sacred, it all falls on you. The ultimate command is to become your own God. So I guess that leaves us with one final, pretty challenging question. If divinity isn't out there somewhere in the heavens, where do you find it? Or maybe even more importantly, how do you create it?